Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Starter Systems again, and welcome back to Monster Energy Supercross 2, the official video game where we're playing a custom replica version of the 2020 Glendale Supercross in-game track that I built after going to the race this weekend. And we're going to play it a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about the race. As you guys know the deal, a little bit of thoughts and opinions on what happened on the weekend, and then obviously always open it up to the discussion below to chat about it. But yeah, this track build was actually, I felt like, kind of fun because I did everything I could to make the lines pretty similar to what we saw in real life. I think for the most part I hit the nail on the head with a lot of the track. Like, I think it turned out pretty good. Like, you can actually nail this quad like they were in real life. It's, I feel like, a little bit bigger in this game than it was in real life. You can double, triple, triple, double right there. So for the most part, I feel like I got kind of the bases covered for how this track played. But yeah, it's just called 2020 Glendale SYS on the PC. I still only build stuff on the PC. I'm gonna start building stuff on console here soon. I'm gonna start getting more console stuff done. But as I'm kind of like a PC guy and it's easier to record stuff on the PC, I usually only tend to do tracks on the PC. But don't worry, I'll start getting more console stuff out. But yeah, good track. Hope you guys enjoy watching a little bit of the gameplay, and let's talk about this 2020 Glendale Supercross that just happened. Again, went there in real life, was there briefly for press day, and then basically all day Saturday ran into a fan in the stands, and it was great to say hi to him. And as a reminder to every single one of you guys, if you're ever at these events that I'm going to, which really only San Diego remains that I know I'm going to at this point, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. Whether or not you really are that big of a fan of me or not, I actually do like meeting other fans of motocross and supercross and just like doing general bench racing with people. So if you're around, it's always just a good time to just say hey and pick your brain about the race for the night. So yeah, just let me know when you guys are at the race sometimes, huh? But speaking of this race, I'll get started in the 450 class first. Triple Crown, interesting. I still don't know where I stand fully on Triple Crowns. Like, I love where we are with them right now with the 3 races a year. I can't decide whether that's enough or not enough or whatever, because the Triple Crowns are like pretty exciting from a fan standpoint, but being a little bit more in the industry, you kind of see what these riders go through and these teams have to go through, and it does kind of suck. It's a big load on them, and like, I fully get where they come from when they say that they want less Triple Crowns, or really just in general don't want Triple Crowns. But from a fan standpoint, yes, absolutely, these races are amazing because it's more gate drops, more excitement, but obviously, as we saw this weekend, more potential for risks and injuries and things that we don't like having in the sport. So that part of it sucks, but the racing itself usually does provide some good stuff. I feel like we got maybe one of like the best finally moments in a long time, where in the first main event it was mano-a-mano Kenny and Eli. Like, that, it just doesn't happen that way anymore, because all too often it seems Eli doesn't get the starts to ride with Kenny when Roczen is really on his groove in the first half of the race, and then Kenny usually is a little bit too tired towards the end of the race to put up such a fight when Tomac is storming through the field like sometimes he does. So when they do meet on the track, it's almost rare that we get to see these consistent consecutive laps where they're actually like kind of battling each other. Not in this case, because they were just nose to tail and there wasn't actually any passing going on. But it's just nice to see 2 of these guys that are probably going to be remembered as like the greatest of their generation, or at least close to it, actually fighting it out on track and seeing who's better in a basically straight up race. I thought it was really cool and interesting. I actually believe Eli was the better rider, but Kenny was just smart with his defensive riding and actually saved himself, I think, a little bit better than Eli for the end of the moto, the end of the race, whatever you want to call it. And he was able to pick up the win in the first main, and you kind of got the sense that this is going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of for the rest of the night. But again, as with most cases, Eli's starts don't always seem to end up in the same area, zip code, whatever you want to call it, as Roczen. And Roczen got a couple good starts in the last couple mains, and for the most part cruised to victory. The second main Particularly, he got an early lead, and before Tomac or Cianciolo or any of those guys could really move into second, because I think who was in second? Who did he pass for the lead initially? Anyway, by the time those guys got to second, Roczen was very far out front, like 4 or 5 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in a 12-minute race, it's kind of a lot. And yeah, Roczen absolutely dominated the weekend. I feel like he was pretty electrifying, to the point that, like, when you saw him actually take the lead from Eli, or not really like take the lead, but just like get in front of Eli in that first race, you're like, wow, this is cool, because at A2, for example, you know, Roczen had a decent sized lead, and before even half the main was over, Eli just easily ran him down and passed him, like, not for nothing, but you just kind of got the sense that that might be the case again this week, and it absolutely was not. Roczen was really, really strong all 3 races, all the way through. Didn't seem like he ever got tired. He gelled with the track, which was good. He was much better in the whoops this week, which is also a plus. So, you know, things went his way a little bit more than they did last week, but it was still just kind of an interesting dynamic to see week to week. We're going to start seeing these momentum shifts like that, and Kenny is your first 2-time winner of the season. Now, behind that, like I said, I think Eli, like, unfortunately had to deal with a little bit worse starts than Kenny, and that ultimately probably cost him a chance at the victory. But we had so much chaos going on beyond that it was really hard to almost keep track of. Like, actually, Roczen and Tomac had pretty bad starts in the first start of the 3rd main, and, you know, unfortunately Blos went down and got hurt, and hopefully he's going to make a full recovery. Was sounding like pretty bad when I talked to the team after the race. They were like, man, he was having trouble breathing, and potentially was having like these seizures from how hard he was knocked out, which is always really scary. But latest reports is that, you know, he's got some, I think some fractured ribs and some, maybe a collapsed lung, I believe, if I remember right. A couple other things going against him. But for the most part, he was in stable condition last time I heard, so that's good news for Blos. But it did give a mulligan to both Roczen and Tomac in the 3rd main, and Roczen took full advantage of it, basically grabbed the whole shot and was gone. So I think that that's kind of the way it goes sometimes. Like, we look at Webb last year, he had some weird moments where he got kind of lucky. You go back to, I think, it's Nashville, that he and Alessi went down in the heat race, and Webb was basically like done for the heat, like about to ride back to the semi, and I believe it was Ronnie Stewart went down. Red flag came out, and yeah, Webb got basically a mulligan, and I think he even got the whole shot on the restart of the heat race and went straight to the main and finished second or something like that on the night. So, you know, just sometimes you almost have to start looking at weird trends like that as like, wow, Roczen, or Eli for that matter, kind of almost lucked out in that last main, although I think both of them were plenty fast enough to work to the front. But it was bad enough, their starts, that at one point towards the end there, Anderson actually had possession of the overall on the night, and because of the restart, you know, it took that opportunity for Anderson away and gave it to Kenny in that sense. So a little bit of luck there. Unfortunate situation, obviously, but a little bit of luck. And then, yeah, like, the chaos behind them was crazy. I'm going to do a race examination video on Racer X again this week and basically talk about how sad Zach Osborne's night was. Like, that guy, he walked under a ladder, poured salt over the wrong shoulder, you know, had a black cat walking from him. I don't know, dude. He crashed in all 3 mains. He even restarted the 3rd main after pulling out of the first start of the 3rd main. He left the stadium, went to the Alpine Stars medical truck, got checked out, then got back on his bike and was like, well, I can make the restart. Went down there. They told him he could start, and he started. And then he went down with Baggett while he was in like 5th or something like that, 4th or 5th. And then, you know, called it quits after that, because what's the point? He's like dead last. Goes back to the hauler, and then finds out that he's actually been disqualified from the 3rd main event regardless, because he can't DNF a race, and then when it's reflagged, you can't come back, which I think is kind of a weird rule. But, like, goodness gracious, Zach Osborne, what a night. Like, gets the whole shot in the 1st main event. It's looking so good, and then falls by himself in the 1st main. And then the 2nd main, he gets tangled up with the Bogle first turn crash, which Cianciolo misses breaking point by a country mile. And then Osborne, I think, fell again in the restart, but got his way up to 10th, I think it was. and then obviously falling on the start of the third main, and then falling again with Baggett on the restart. Gosh, man, Zach Osborne, poor guy. And then, you know, seeing Cerullo had a big off. Fortunate to escape injury there, but over the bars and the whoops, landed flat on his back, knocked the wind out of him, so he needed a couple laps to gather himself, and then rolled across the finish line in 17th or something like that. Still finished 8th overall in the night, so Triple Crowns, man, sometimes they are saving graces a little bit, where like seeing Cerullo with the 17th would be in a much worse position, except for the fact that he had already had a couple good races to start the night and ended up 8th overall, so that's not a huge points tally loss. Again, like, I just don't know where I stand on these Triple Crowns, because like in one sense the racing's better, but in the other sense it almost detracts from it a little bit, because like in the 250 class, for example, we saw Forkner kind of settle into a pace there in the last main event, because he knew he didn't need to win it to win the overall, so it was like, let me just take a third, I'm good here, which is what, you know, Triple Crown format unfortunately kind of does, is that guys can settle and still pick up the maximum points, whereas like outdoors 2-moto format, points are always on the line, so you have to go for it. Doesn't matter. You know, you can, I guess, concede and just say, like, I just want the overall victory, but you're still giving up points if you give a position up or two. Not in the Triple Crown. Forkner literally let Ferrandis go and was like, if Ferrandis doesn't catch Cooper, then I'm going to win the race, so it doesn't matter. And that part of it kind of sucks. Like, even my wife said that. She went to the race too, and she was like, yeah, it detracts from the racing a little bit, and it does. It really does. So there's some points to be made for and against Triple Crown. Like I said, I kind of like where it is right now, just because you get a little taste of it. It does shake up the dynamic of the series. Whether or not it actually shakes up points or anything crazy, still the jury's out. But it does shake up kind of the dynamic, like I said, because, you know, these guys get a curveball thrown at them right in the middle of their championship. They're training for 20s, and suddenly they're doing 12s, and they're doing 3 of them, and there's more gate drops and yada yada yada. So I like that bit of it a little bit, because it's different. So anyway, continuing on 450 discussion just a little bit. Jason Anderson picked up 3rd. It was his 2nd podium of the year, and now we have 4 riders, I think, or maybe 5 riders within 20 points of each other. I think it's Tomac, well, Roxanne's the points lead, and then Tomac, Anderson, I think Cerullo's in 4th, he might be in 5th, and then Webb is in 4th or 5th, and he's only 20 points down, so still pretty tight championship race. This isn't wide open, and if Ken Roxon's track record is anything to go off of, this like consistent winning / domination level, or whatever you want to call it, has never been on form. Like, when he wins a lot of races at the beginning of the season, he crashes heavily at the midpoint and either gets hurt or rides injured and is not the same guy. So while I would like to see that change and Roxon be a dynamite rider for the rest of the season, we still have like these question marks looming over how long does this form last. I would like to see it last a long time so that we can see a championship battle go deep into the season. Seems like for the most part, Tomac has ridden very smart at the start of the year and hasn't pushed himself beyond his limits, and he's only 8 points down the championship, so that's pretty good. Oh, Barsha's the other guy in there. That's right. So Webb is 5th, but it's not AC. Barsha is still 3rd in the championship. Anderson must be 4th then. Or is Barsha? Yeah, I think Barsha's 3rd in the championship. 3rd or 4th. So there's a lot of guys still in the mix. 4 rounds in, obviously, so it's not like it's going to blow wide open immediately, but it is an interesting championship out on this 450 class. Definitely excited. Looking forward to Oakland. Talking 250 class, though, this is definitely becoming a who wants to win it the least type of class. Like, it blows my mind that, like, all these guys are this close in the championship after all the chaos that's happened. Ferrandis and the Moseman incident at St. Louis cost him a lot of points. He finished 12th. Forkner crashed last week at A2, finished 17th. And now Justin Cooper had an atrocious night, somehow still managed to get 8th, so he's going to get, or he's going to keep the red plate going into Oakland next week. But it was a terrible night. He crashed in the first main, or just kind of tipped over, I guess. And then when he got back up, he couldn't get the bike started for like basically a whole lap. Like, he was almost a lap down. And then he crashed again a half a lap later, right before the whoops, or I'm sorry, right after the whoops. And you're like, what the heck is going on? And he barely caught riders by the end. I think he finished 18th in the first one. Then the second one, he has a lead and looking good, looking sharp out front, and then just tucks the front wheel again, and down he goes, and he basically went back to like 18th, 19th. I think he charged up to 10th or so, 10th or 11th. And then last main event gets a good start, pulls away with the win. So he salvaged 8th. Went 22, or no, he went 18, 11, 1 for 8th, something like that. What a weird night that. It's just up and down stories of the season. So all 3 of our basically championship leaders in this class have had their, quote, bad race. Faulkner's only 10 points down the championship now. Ferrandis is only, I believe, 3 down in the championship. And it's tight. It's a close race at the front. Hartranft is up there as well. He is 9 points down, 8 points down or so. And he, is 3rd in the championship. And he's only, finished what? He went 5, 3, 3, 4 or so. 6, 3, 3, 4 actually, I think. So weird 250 class. And I saw Denny Stevenson, who's a former series champion in that class, who went on to have a fairly successful career in Supercross and Arena Cross, and then eventually did some broadcasting as well. He basically made a post where it's like, I don't get how these guys aren't dominating the class anymore or something like that. Like, all we see anymore is this regional 250 class turn into an absolute fest of people blowing up, and when they're in a good position to do well championship wise, they either turn into a head case or something weird like that. And I guess he's not really wrong, because if, in recent memory, we haven't really had like these dominant runaway winners of Supercross. Like Osborne, I guess, in 2018 kind of ran away with it. Hill in 2017 ran away with it a little bit. But for the most part, we've had these barn burner final races in Vegas where the championship is on the line and guys are going for it. Long gone are the days of Carmichael, Stu, Reed, even these guys coming through and just winning their classes right off the get-go and just moving right up to the 450 class, which is why I get Stevenson's point, because like Faulkner has a bright future ahead of him. Hopefully Ferrandis has a good 450 career. He's getting, he's a little bit older. He's like 26, I think, 25 maybe. But you want to have these guys come through quickly and move up to the 450 class quickly so that they can challenge the elite of the sport as fast as they can, which is what used to happen. Carmichael only spent 2 years in the 125 class before trying his hand at 250 Supercross. That doesn't happen anymore. It really doesn't. Like Chase Sexton is going to almost like unfortunately be bumped to the 450 class next year, because I don't think he wants to go, but he won a title, so he has to defend this year and move up. Like, that's just how it's going to work. So we don't see this like guys getting in and out of the 250 class and going straight to the 450 class thing happen anymore, unless they're like abnormally tall, like a Benny Bloss or something like that, where they're just not really well suited for a 250 and almost have to move to a 450. So yeah, it's disappointing in the sense that none of these guys are able to grab the series by the horns, because if somebody did, it would really, set themselves up for a good 450 ride in the future, and we get them in the 450 class sooner, instead of like, oh, well, do we know he's going to be successful on a 450? Yeah, he won the regional title, but he kind of struggled his way to it. Like, you could say the same thing about Ferrandis. He won the regional title last year, but almost kind of lucked into it. Like, I hate using the word luck, but gosh, Steven Cirillo threw it away. Like, he really did, and Ferrandis was just so solid down the stretch and took advantage of the opportunities. But that's what I'm saying, is that none of the 250 guys anymore are just like blowing your mind with speed, consistency, race-winning pace week in and week out, which is a good thing for fans because you want to see the parity. But sometimes it's nice just to see one guy come in and out of that class quickly, get to the 450s and start wreaking havoc there, because it adds more parity to both classes in that sense. So hopefully one of these guys kind of figures it out soon. Cooper looked like he was on the right track and then had a terrible week, and Ferrandis looked like he was going to have a good series and had a terrible week at St. Louis, and Faulkner looked like he had got his wits back about him and then had a crash at Anaheim too, and it's wide open again. So who knows who's going to win this championship. Hartranft might just winless his way into this thing if these guys keep having weird crashes and bad races and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see. Oakland this weekend, going to be fun. I am not going, but yeah, Coliseum always seems to host like good races. The dirt up there is like nice, rich soil. Like California usually is pretty dry and hard packed, but Oakland seems to hold up quite well. I heard a little rumors about rain in the area and then checked the forecast and didn't see it, so maybe, locals know a little bit more than I do or something like that, but I'm not seeing rain this weekend. But if we do get it, I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. just to throw a little bit more of a wrench in the series. Maybe have a new winner. Be kind of cool. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about previewing Oakland this at the end of the week when I do my sim video. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown of the 2020 Glendale Supercross. Really enjoyed going to the race, had a good time, and looking forward to what is coming next in this series. I don't know, folks. This is still wide open in my opinion. So yeah, thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.